And welcome back, everyone, to the Lantern Corps series. Pre-recording a bunch of... I pre-recorded my Who Would Win on Sunday for a change, and it gets me so much more time to pre-record everything else for the week. So, as I mentioned before, pre-recording is really helping me a lot here now. So I'm probably going to be focusing a lot on that during the early parts of the week, so I can just have something available in case something comes up. Wednesdays are a perfect example where I'm not usually free in the morning on Wednesdays, but then I come back later on the afternoon, and then I usually record the video. If I just have the video ready when I get home, I can just click a button and upload it. Regardless, Lantern Corps, and I'm so teeny at the moment, but with the new thumbnail and the way I've designed it, it does kind of take a bit of room away. And I still haven't fully fixed the thumbnail. I got to fix the compassion in the corner. Regardless, coming to us from Brandon Whitman, Noble Chief, and Yaju World, we have the fourth Espada. And I believe I've done one or two of the Espadas already on this series. But the fourth Espada from Bleach, Ulquiorra Cifer. Is it Cifer or Cifer? I want to say it's Cifer. I could be wrong on that. Regardless, the fourth Espada. Now, Ulquiorra is definitely one of the more unique Espadas. The reason for that is all the Espada they're characters who have gained Shinigami power. If you don't know Bleach, I'm not going to go into the huge lore. Suffice it to say, they are characters that were enemies of the Shinigami at one point. And the Espada were like the top 10 strongest ones. Now, each of the Espada actually represented an aspect of death. And Ulquiorra's was nihilism. Like, he just doesn't really believe in much. He doesn't believe in the concept of a heart or love or loyalty. He has no belief system in that sense. He's just very dead emotionally. He has very little going on there. So, figuring out his Lantern Corps proved to definitely be a bit tricky. Because the standard ideas of, love or even rageism, he's got very little, he doesn't have any internal rage going on. Will didn't work because he doesn't really experience fear. So he can't overcome great fear. He can't demonstrate that he can overcome great fear because he doesn't feel fear, really. Even with a good willpower, you still need to be able to overcome great fear. And he's not really a good qualifier for Green Lantern Ring. All the three on the side over there, Sorrow, which, again, most recent one, we have no knowledge on Sorrow beyond you need to be very, very, very sad, and he's not. Certainly doesn't qualify for a Gold Lantern Ring, because never been happy his entire life. He feels no shame in his actions, so he's not an Ultraviolet. So it became very interesting figuring out what rings within the emotional spectrum actually did work. Let's get one out of the way right now. I do think he can become a Lantern of Fear. Woo, I'm so teeny there. And yes, I am right here. I am the core of all lanterns. But I do believe he can become a Fear Lantern. Because all the Espada were able to inspire great fear against their opponents. No matter who they were facing and no matter who they all were a level of power that their opponents, respectively, were at minimum uneasy and at most terrified of them. It was then when stronger opponents came in, let me rephrase that. It's only when stronger adversaries for those respective Espadas came in that they were no longer that frightening. Perfect candidate for that would be Nihilism, the fifth Espada. When he was butchering Ichigo, when he was messing with Neliel, going to kill Orihime, he was frightening as hell. He was scaring the hell out of them. Then Kenpachi shows up, and he's just like, let's have some fun! And there's, okay. And they start to lose their fear. I mean, they were still scared of Nihilism, but Kenpachi showed no fear of him whatsoever. If anything, he was scaring the crap out of Nihilism more often in that fight than Nihilism was him. Yeah, Kenpachi was never once scared in that fight. If anything, he was just having the time of his life. But Ulquiorra definitely falls in the category of, yes, your reputation precedes you. That kind of guy. So fear definitely works, I think. As I said, though, things like love and rage don't work. I also don't think things like hope or greed work. He is not a greedy individual. He just doesn't have any real wants or desires to be greedy. And he doesn't really have a lot of hope or faith in him, really, at all. Because he's just so nihilistic. But there are two other lanterns that kind of function the same in one way or another here that could work. First one is compassion. Now, this is not because he has compassion, although he did ultimately gain a little bit of it near the end. It's because he has no compassion. Nihilism, like literal nihilism. He literally lacks it. He's incapable. He was mentally and physically incapable of compassion until, again, near the very, very, very end. And where he kind of grew enough to actually kind of understand some concepts that were beyond his original purview, his original life view. But before then, yeah, no, he would have been actually a very good candidate for a Ring of Compassion because he was just so nihilistic. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's actually talk about nihilism for a second, because nihilism is a very hypocritical term, in my opinion. What do I mean by that? The idea of nihilism is you simply just don't believe in anything. You do not care about anything. Nothing matters. You know, we're all just cosmic dust and all that stuff floating in the breeze. So, well, screw it. I'm just going to do what I want. Doesn't matter. And true nihilism doesn't actually exist. Because on some level, you care about something. On some level, for example, you still go out, you still get dressed, you still go and eat, you care about what you eat. Not because maybe you care about your health, but because you want things that taste good. That's still caring. If someone asks you and you're willing to have a debate about nihilism, well, guess what? You're still caring to have that conversation. Anytime I see nihilistic characters in movies or TV, perfect example was, weirdly enough, and I haven't actually seen the movie entirely, but I know the main antagonist of Everything Everywhere All at Once, who just became a version of her daughter who became very nihilistic. I'm like, you claim to be nihilistic, but you're not, because you're still caring enough to try to convince your mom. If you don't care, why do you care to convince someone of it? This is why true nihilism just doesn't actually exist. Let me put it this way. The few individuals in our world that actually practice true nihilism are some of the most dangerous individuals on the planet. But that being because they literally do not care. Your life means nothing. Their life means nothing. Your rules, societies, all means nothing to them. But those few people out there that exist that are like that generally keep them themselves or have usually been caught after their horrendous acts. But it's a very, very few in image. Like, the percentage is so small as to probably be non-existent of people who are true nihilistic. Ulquiorra is not true nihilism. He's as close as you could probably get, but he's not true nihilism. Why? Because he constantly still keeps having the conversations with Orihime, trying to debate the concept of what is the heart. Is it here? He keeps trying to find the heart. Like, he wants to understand this concept. He just can't. Which is why compassion still very much works, because he still completely lacks it. The only other Lantern Corps I see him qualifying for is the Black Lantern Corps of Death. Now, why? Well, as someone did point out, first of all, being a Arankar means you were once a Hollow, which is a spirit. It's a kind of an evil spirit, close to a demon, although not quite. There is a hell in Bleach, and Hollows don't come from hell. They come from a different place. They come from Hoeko Mundo. But you're still spirit. Therefore, you have passed on at this point. So, right out the gate, being a dead individual, a spirit, if you will, he should be able to qualify just in that qualification alone for a Black Lantern ring. But, as someone did correctly point out, while the white ring is a symbolism of both life, it's also a symbolism of all the emotions coming together. Whereas the Black Lantern ring is a ring of death. It's also a symbol. It's also the symbolism of, it also symbolizes. That's what I'm trying to say. also symbolizes the complete lack of emotion. Now, the thing about that, even though it does symbolize that as far as I know has never been a complete qualifier to become a Black Lantern. It's mostly been about death, usually. But it's been a while since I've read The Blackest Night, so I couldn't 100% guarantee that. So, in that vein, we could say that we could at least kind of look towards it. But the fact is, Ulquiorra is still a individual who has died at some point and then kind of come back in a new life, in an afterlife of some kind. So, in the cycle of reincarnation, all that. So, he could still be a qualifier for a Black Lantern ring. My only problem with that is because of the way passing on works in Bleach. It's a cycle of reincarnation. There technically isn't any true death in Bleach, save for when, say, like apparently we did get this revealed, when, like, say, a very powerful captain dies within, like, say, the Soul Society, and they're so powerful they can't go back into the cycle of reincarnation. Their energy is too dense and powerful. They instead go to hell. And so they're outside now of the cycle of reincarnation. So if you die and go to hell, while you still will come back in some form, I think that qualifies as an actual death. Whereas, yes, we still pass on, we die in the living world, and then go to the Soul Society or Waco Mundo. It's kind of up in the air how much of a death that really... Like, you die in the real world, and then you have a new life in the next world. Like, that's kind of how it is, at least for the Soul Society. Now, how good that life is, that's up for debate. But regardless, the rules on death are a little different in Bleach than they... Not even a little. They're kind of very different in Bleach than they are in the DC Universe. But I will say this. Looking at these three, I think there's a good argument for all three of them. I will say, though, that because it's more symbolic of the absence of emotions and less of a qualifier, not completely, mind you, I'm not trying to say that's not the case, but death seems to be the bigger qualifier before the absence of emotion. I will put it as the bronze medal winner here. So it comes down to compassion, it comes down to fear. Which one do I think fits Ulquiorra better? Honestly, I'd probably go with the compassion, because a lot of people kind of, as Ichigo certainly lost his fear of Ulquiorra initially once they had their rematch. It was just then that Ulquiorra showed off his real power and the fear got reinstilled. And then Ichigo went ham on him, and then, like, the fear was gone. So, and Uryu wasn't really that afraid of him, even when he was getting his ass kicked. So, take that into consideration, I guess. But the whole lack of compassion thing, that carried through his entire character arc. Even near the end, where he was just starting to kind of learn the concepts of the heart, of love, friendship, all that kind of stuff. That was only near the end, and then he died. Like, he turned to dust and faded away. So, I think because throughout almost the entirety, 99% of his entire story, he was devoid of compassion. I think compassion, ironically, is the best candidate. Now, just to remind you, it does pick anyone who's got compassion as their strongest emotion or a complete devoidance of compassion. And in his case, he'd be the complete devoidance. I don't know if devoidance is a word. It does sound kind of like a word, but a complete lack of emotion. It sounds like I'm saying devoid. Complete void of emotion. Devoidance. That's not a word. But regardless, yes, when you have a complete lack of emotion, it's not devoid. Oh no, yeah, being devoid of emotion. That's what I was trying to say. I just turned devoid into devoidance. Anyway, so yeah, I would probably go compassion in this argument. But this is just my opinion. What do you think? What would you, as the fellow viewers who either do know Bleach or don't know Bleach, do for his Lantern Corp? I keep saying Corp. It's Corp. Do for his Lantern Corp. Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys for the next one. Later.